I just helped an ultra runner go from constantly breaking down to finishing a 100K on just 3 runs per week. I'm Dr. Ray Peralta, a physical therapist and run coach. Over the past 10 years, I've helped hundreds of runners both on the pain relief side and on improving their run performance. This video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how we did it and how you can train for an ultra marathon without destroying your body with junk miles. So the problem that I notice with a lot of ultra runners that many ultra plans will tell you to run almost every day of the week, right? 5 days a week, 6, 7 days a week, a high mileage approach, 50 miles, 80 miles plus, right? Back to back long runs every weekend. And yes, don't get me wrong, that approach can work. But what I've seen as a physical therapist is that many ultra runners also end up getting overuse of running injuries, right? Foot pain, Achilles tendon issues, knee pain, IT band, shin splints, hip pain, low back. So essentially all the multiple types of injury just with overuse or running, too much running, right? And the real issue is that ultras don't fail because of your lungs. They fail because your tissue, your body can't just handle the load, the demands of running, right? That load is too high and exceeds your body's capacity to handle it, and then it breaks down, right? And my client situation, she was she was about in her 40s or so, busy schedule, kept getting small injuries and couldn't stay consistent with a high mileage approach, right? So we flipped the approach. Instead of running more, we actually focused on running less and swapping out some of the running with strengthening, right? Getting stronger legs, right? And so just to recap, why running injuries happen again? The load can be just from too many days of the week of running, right? Not enough recovery days, too much mileage, right? High mileage approaches, maybe going too fast, too much terrain work, like on uneven, too much on the trails, too frequently, like too many hill workouts throughout the week. And what we do with this run less approach is we have more recovery days, right? So if you're not running every day of the week, you're going to have some days to recover from running. And then you could also take those other days to actually build up your tissue capacity, right? This is where the strength training comes in to build up the tissue tolerance, right? And obviously nutrition's important, getting enough of sleep, right? Decreasing any stressors, even some other lifestyle stressors can actually impact your body's healing tissue capacity. But the big one here is actually the strength training and the mobility training as well, making sure you're mobile, but the strength training to actually build up the tissue tolerance. We're going to talk about that in a moment here. And if you want to copy this Google Doc, I dropped it in my free community for runners, link in the description. So the 3-run framework, right? So the 3 key runs that we simplified her running to, right? So running less is one doing like hill workouts at least once a week to build up her endurance. Going uphill. There's some sample workouts here like 10 by 2 minute uphill or 20 to 30 minute like steady climbing on some trails to build legs that don't quit at hour 6. All right, building up the aerobic engine, right? 30, 60 minute, 90 minute, all day, kind of steady effort, kind of sub-threshold work, right? Or there's also, you do it kind of longer intervals, like 12-minute at that steady or sub-threshold, 3 by 12 minutes, and makes the race pace feel a bit easier. And then, obviously, then we got the long run, just time on the feet, 2.5, 4.5 hours, hike ups, run flats, control the descents, right? Train on the trails, run on the trails, and the goal is to build durability and not suffering. And just with three runs a week, only averaging, I don't know, like 30 to 40-ish miles a week or so. It was a very low mileage approach. So you're like, how can you actually prepare for an ultra marathon with such a low mileage approach? And the thing is, we replaced some of those running days that were, and in some ways, were kind of junk miles because they're not allowing my runner to recover as properly with strength training, right? Instead of adding more runs during the week, we swapped it out for 2 to 3 quality strength sessions per week, heavy lifting, right? Like training at the 5-rep max, 3-rep max, barbell deadlifts, squats, split squats, and then some other accessory work, but maybe higher repetitions, 8 to 12 repetition range, or even 20 to 25 rep range, like calf raises, step ups, hamstring work, single leg deadlifts or RDLs, farmers carries, all the different kind of modalities, both heavy lifting, strength endurance, high repetition work, but also the explosive lifting, things like power cleans, box jumps, drop jumps, squat jumps, speed squats, speed deadlifts, right? And these type of training modalities were done about 2 to 3 times a week. And this became her injury insurance, right? It built up her body strength, allowed her to be strong on the long runs, on the trails, right? allowed her to finish that ultra strong, right? Strength training for runners. You can see some of the benefits of strength training, right? Improves neuromuscular efficiency, can help improve running economy. By having more power, it could also improve your lactate threshold. So literally, it ties into so many different aspects of running. It's always interesting to me. So many runners skip strength training altogether, or they only do like one type of strength training, which is usually they do very light weights, high repetition work, because they think, oh, I just got to do more endurance. But that type of strength training is more like cardio. Don't get me wrong; it has a time and its place. But so many runners either they just skip it altogether, which is a complete disservice. And as you can see, that strength training also obviously improves your running economy, so you use less energy for the same distance. This is where you could run faster for longer or run longer without fatiguing as easily, more fatigue resistance, right? So it improves your endurance performance. And I've seen multiple runners, countless runners, actually set new PRs despite, having been running the same way for years, just by swapping out some of the excessive running with strength training, right? It wasn't about a magic running plan, because I'll be honest with you, this 3 runs per week running plan is not magical. Like, anyone could have figured this out. It's really the quality strength training that makes a big difference here. So many times people will message me like, oh, this looks like some other plan or whatever. I keep telling folks, it's not just about the 3 runs. Yes, the 3 runs are important, but it's the strength training here that's the missing ingredient, or the how people don't actually properly perform the strength training that's setting apart those who actually get all the benefits from it and those who don't get the benefits. And they kind of scratch their head, oh, it didn't work for me, or the strength training, I didn't see a big difference because they weren't doing the proper heavy lifting and the explosive lifting, right? It's not about just a 3 runs per week framework. Right, some of my favorite strength exercises, like things like box squats, trap bar deadlifts, Bulgarian split squats. Again, there's so many different strength exercises for you, but I gave you some examples above. And so then you want to build the engine without beating the body. So other days a week, this is where you do cross training, right? 2 times a week, low impact aerobic work, incline walking, weighted walking, even do sled drags, pulling a sled or pushing a sled, biking, elliptical, or pool running. So you get some of the aerobic benefit, but less of the pounding. So from if you were trying to run, 5 days a week or 6 days a week, you swap out also some of those running days for some cross training here. That allows your body to also recover, but also still kind of boost up your aerobic engine, your aerobic capacity for endurance. And then recovery becomes the advantage. This is where a lot of most runners fail when they're following these traditional plans where they're having to run almost every day of the week. We prize, getting enough sleep, right? At least 7 hours a night of sleep. Daily mobility, at least 10 minutes of mobility on tight or stiff areas. Sometimes it's the hips or the knees or the ankles. In my runner's case, it was her ankle that was pretty stiff. She kept having reoccurring ankle pain. So we worked on restoring ankle dorsiflexion mobility, big toe extension mobility, right? Nutrition, make sure eating and drinking enough. Obviously, on the long run, consuming foods, gels, a combination of things, but averaging about 60 to 90 grams of carbohydrates per hour, and whatever means where for my athlete's preference. And if obviously you're watching this, whatever your preference is. And I've even seen the runners do maple syrup, honey. Again, there's so many different options out there. And then obviously I'll also eat enough food outside of the run as well, making sure you're getting enough carbohydrates, proteins, healthy fats outside of your just a long run as well. Like throughout the week, you should be eating healthy and eating enough food as well, so you're properly fueled. And most ultra runners aren't under-trained, right? It's not about, oh, they don't have strong enough lungs, they're not doing enough cardio. They're just under-recovered, and they also don't strength train. They're under-trained for strength training, that is, right? Cardio-wise, usually their lungs and heart are good enough to do ultra, but it's actually the strength in their legs to sustain them, to keep them upright without breaking down. So result, my client was able to stay consistent, no layoffs because of injuries, build durability over time. She was more resilient and finished her ultra feeling strong, right? Not broken. And the biggest shift, she stopped chasing like high mileage approaches, started building resilience, and actually started to enjoy training more because she wasn't feeling like such a drag because her legs were too tired from, running, high mileage 6-7 days a week. And that's what actually carries you through 50K, 100K and beyond. So this low mileage ultra approach can work, especially when you incorporate proper strength training. Again, that's why I want to keep emphasizing here, because so many people watch the thing and think it's just about the 3 runs per week approach and forget about everything else. So I currently have a few spots open and work with me one-to-one to help you train for your next race without injuries, without burnout. If you're serious about running stronger with less mileage, there's a link in the description to apply. So lessons, ultras aren't always won by those who run the high mileage weeks. They're won by durable legs, strong legs, right? And an aerobic engine. And strength training replaces those junk miles. So consistency comes from staying healthy, not just grinding harder and training smarter. So if you found this helpful, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one.